What's going on, guys? I hope you guys are having a fantastic day so far. I definitely am. Spent most of the day just blobbing around, really doing nothing. Such a beautiful thing. When you do absolutely nothing for the entire day mostly, it's a beautiful thing. We've got our karaoke, which will start in a couple hours here. I decided to just enjoy most of the day. And then, you know what? I'll make a video near right before work. Anyways, I wanted to talk about the overall market. I wanted to talk about Pokemon, where it's headed, where it's been going. Lately, prices have been at all-time highs for anything such as booster boxes, to vintage grail cards that I've been talking about, to modern chase cards. Pretty much anything and everything has been booming, and there's kind of been no end in sight. Well, recently, Warren Buffett, I occasionally will watch videos. I'll listen to Warren Buffett talk about stuff. And I'm also actively getting back into day trading and buying and selling a stock that I'm particularly fond of, QuantumScape. Anyways, in doing that, I'm kind of like, maybe you should be checking yourself on, trying to day trade this or play the market. And in the same light, maybe you should be checking yourself with your purchases in Pokemon and all these vintage grail cards. And guys, I don't have a crystal ball. I can't see where things are going. I have gut feelings, and I feel like things are bound to get bad at some point. We're at a crossroads right now. Okay, we've got Christmas on the horizon, right? Halloween's around the corner. Thanksgiving coming up. The holidays are here, and with that comes people celebrating, people buying gifts for each other, and in the same light, maybe people being strapped for cash, not being super liquid, and again, buying gifts for each other, which might mean less money for luxury goods like Pokemon cards. I don't know. Some deep thoughts that I was having after listening to Warren Buffett talk about the fact that we have a very dark time coming in this country, particularly for the stock market, but for the economy as a whole. People have been, myself included, right? The stock that I've been talking about lately, QuantumScape, they're a pre-revenue company. So that's on the speculative side of things too, right? If you look at my behavior and how I collect and how I've been investing, it's extremely speculative, right? But here's the thing, it's been speculative for quite some time now. We've had this bubbly, frothy market slowly getting worse and worse. And it's gotten to a point where now I'm starting to see cards kind of sit. They're kind of sitting. They're not getting cleaned, off the shelves immediately. Now this is happening maybe a little bit in retail. I'm sure there's still scalping. I'm sure there's still people buying everything off the shelves. But I'm more referring to vintage cards that are sitting on eBay. They're still getting sold. We're still seeing cards hitting all-time highs, right? I posted this in the Discord, but we had Dark Charizard last night hit an all-time high of 9,250 for the first edition PSA 10 Dark Charizard. First edition Gym Challenge Blaine's Charizard hit $10,000. Guys, I mean, both of these cards were like $6,000-$7,000 cards like a couple weeks back, right? So the market, it's fair, I think, for prices to continue moving forward and going up, especially on these cards that are highly sought after. But is it valid for the prices to be moving this quickly? And does it further back up my theory that we're in a super bubbly, frothy market right now, and things could turn on a dime? They really could. I actually saw this in my stock the other day, QuantumScape. A lot of people, I'm in a stock forum, StockTwits, and everyone was like, Ryan, you sold way too early because I sold at 17 and the stock had ran to 19. The next day, the stock had jumped right back down to $15 a share. Now, I ended up getting back in at 16, but I kind of been thinking a lot about that and kind of relating it back to Pokemon that, maybe I should have let it ride out all the way down. Right now it looks pretty stable. It's pretty much back up to my break-even point, which is good because I'll be able to sell for a profit again soon, shortly, hopefully. But how does this relate to Pokemon? In Pokemon, I think a lot of people are going to try and time the market, and it's just like the stock market. There's really no timing it. It's better to just be in it for a long period of time. Although I think people have much more success flipping and selling cards in this hobby than they probably would in the stock market. So I'll give them that. Maybe this hobby provides not only a safe haven for cash, but also a stable way to invest your money. So, we can entertain that. But what happens when those dark times in the market come and fear takes over, right? We instinctually, we love to fear monger, and when there's fear in the market, when people are afraid they're going to lose their money, when people are afraid that things are going to be crashing and burning, they jump ship. That's typically what people do. They jump ship. It's a fight or flight response type of thing. It's self-preservation, right? And the same thing, while it hasn't quite happened in Pokemon, right? We have seen some prices retracing. I know as much as I want to see booster boxes burn in price, and this is a one, right? This isn't something that may even happen. It's something that I thought happened very recently. I actually mistook some false pricing and maybe some counterfeit boxes or some scammer eBay sellers. I mistook their pricing for being the market prices, and I thought prices were tanking. Now, I'm gonna entertain the idea of what if they did tank. If they did tank, a lot of people would be super screwed. They would not be able to get out of their sealed investment. They would be stuck with those boxes. Most of them don't even want the boxes. Most of them wouldn't even care to open it. It's just a get-rich-quick thing, right? It's part of our culture of instant gratification. And it's the same thing as investing in the stock market. There's a lot of parallels in Pokemon, but more and more every day, Pokemon is treated like an asset class. CNBC just released some news the other day about, someone posted in the Discord that Target and Walmart and sales are up big time in the Pokemon and the TCG category, right? The trading card category. Sales are up, the percentage points are up. The big retailers they're raking it in this holiday season, and I don't think they plan on stopping. And I think that things could very well get even frothier and crazier by Christmas time, right? People are just justifying ridiculous purchases the same way that I might justify some ridiculous purchases and say, well, you know what, guys, Christmas is around the corner. I absolutely have to buy the Gold Star Umbreon for $20,000, $22,000, $25,000. Who knows what I'm going to end up buying that card for? But I need it to complete the Gold Stars. That is the last Gold Star that I need. What do you do when you're a collector first, investor second, seller third? I guess we'll put it that way. What do you do when you think the market could hit a major downturn? You have a couple options. You are either going to sit on the sidelines and wait for the so-called kind of retrace or crash, which I think in this hobby, I don't know if we ever get the chances where if we just say, hey, if you're patient, you will get the product. That's what we used to say in the past about Pokemon cards, but I don't know if we can say that anymore. It seems like once there are certain market sales, the prices just keep on going up. This bubble, if we can even call it that, is unlike any that we've seen in the past. We've really never seen anything like this before. We've never seen Pokemon this popular, this hyped up, this FOMO-driven, this manipulated, this artificially inflated. We haven't seen this for a while, and now Wall Street is on top of it, and CNBC, and hopefully this hobby will stay popular with the current generation, but and they'll be able to keep it hot and keep people involved. But with this generation right now, all of us adults, all of us nostalgic, older collectors and fellow degenerates, we're having to choose, in a time where more debt is leveraged than ever, right? And I do the same thing. I use my credit card to buy expensive Pokemon cards, and then I gradually pay it off. And I imagine a lot of people do that. And in some ways, like, the prices of some of my cards going up in value far outpaced the interest that I had to pay on my card, which, was a lot. It was a lot considering how much I bought this past month, but it was insignificant in terms of how much Pokemon had grown. My Pokemon collection had grown in value. And I feel like it's easy for people to talk, Warren Buffett to be the stock market expert. And the reason I'm talking about Warren Buffett is because he's been in the game for a very long time. He knows smoke when he sees it. And I think right now he's seeing a lot of smoke in the market right now. And he's warning us right now. He's warning us. He's warning senior citizens about, their retirement. He's warning young folks about instant gratification. He's warning, people with, mortgages and families and businesses about, not overextending themselves with, over leveraging debt and, buying into, bubbly hot stocks and trying to beat the market, which is basically what I'm trying to do right now. I'm trying to be the smart ass, trying to beat the market and time it when there's really no timing the market. But again, why is this relevant to Pokemon? Right now, the market was a little shaky recently on some China talks with Trump. And, on top of that, apparently there's some shakiness, there's some smoke in terms of the business loans that are going out. In 2008, we had a massive correction and crash, a recession. And that was due to the bad mortgages that we were giving out. Now, we could basically be repeating that again. We've got a different name for it, but there's something going on behind the scenes once again. And I don't know what we're going to call it, but it might have to do with bad business loans that people are getting out. Right now, I have friends they're not collectors, they're not into Pokemon, but they're starting businesses. And they're taking out massive loans. And they have no right to get these loans, right? There's no reason that some of my friends starting their businesses should be able to get the loans they're getting. I don't know how they're getting them. It even makes me wonder if I were to try and get a business loan for Pokemon card selling, and I tried to go to the bank and get a loan, what would I get pre-approved for? What would they give me? Now, considering the fact that we got the house that we're living in now, this house is so far beyond our means. It's crazy how far beyond our means this house actually is. I cannot believe we were able to afford it. And that also tells me another thing in the market. A lot of people are regretting buying homes, the interest rates. I can afford this, right? I'll be okay. But I imagine the vast majority of people are in over their heads on debt, whether it's with their car payment, whether it's with leveraging debt to buy stocks or trade options on margin, whether they are way in over their heads on their homes and they have a lot of debt there, whether they have credit card debt, whether they're buying cards. If I haven't already said that several times during this thing, it is that I think a lot of people right now, and I know this because I do it, but I can afford to do it. So it's okay. It doesn't make it right. Buying cards on credit does not make it right. But I've been doing this for a very long time. It's how I've afforded some of my most expensive cards. It's not because I make a load of money and I can just buy these cards outright right on the spot. I buy them because I think the market will continue trending up on them. And I buy them because I love the artwork, and I buy them because I love the rarity, I love the history, I love the artists. It's really more simple than anything. There's no crazy reasoning or science behind it. I just buy cards I like, really, that I think are going to get more expensive because I like them so much. I think other people will like them just as much and be willing to pay just as much as I'm willing to pay or more. What happens when we've all got way in over our heads on buying product, buying cards, doing these auctions, right? eBay is all a part of the problem, right? People get, involved in the competitive, alluring nature of, doing these auctions and putting a bid in the competitive side of it. That's, you're not going to win this card. I'm going to win it, even if that means I overpay in an already overinflated market. These are all things that I'm thinking about now. Should have been thinking about the entire time, but I didn't really care what market we were in. Once I bought this house, I told Diana, I'm going to get full tilt back into collecting cards, and it's going to be crazy. The prices are going to be crazy because, I've spent the better portion of this past year saving up for this house that we're in now. And I wish if I could do it over, I would have been buying all the cards that I've been buying now. I would have been buying them before and putting less money down on the house. Now, I'm sure in the end, I'll be happy with my decision to put more money down on the house and have smaller monthly payments. But I don't feel good about the cards that I'm buying right now. I want to make that super clear. Like, I feel good about it. I feel guilty. I feel guilty for how much money I'm spending on these cards right now. And I imagine a lot of people feel that way in the hobby. Like, has it come to this? We're so desensitized to spending money and investing and, throwing our money at these cards that we think will continue to rise in value, and in these boxes that we think will continue to rise in value, and in the TCG as a whole that we think will just keep going to the moon. But there's going to be a reckoning. I'm not even going to try and say when. I'm not going to say boxes are going to hit a certain price, because I know that's going to get me into some trouble. It just doesn't feel right. It just doesn't feel right now, and I should be sitting out on the sidelines, right? You can either continue buying cards you enjoy, and if you enjoy them, who cares about the money, right? Easier said than done, right? Once you get into, $10, $20, $30,000 cards, someone in our Discord said, Orion, what if this Skyridge Gengar you just bought in a PSA 10 ended up being 15 grand overnight, right? Now, that's a big deal, right? Maybe not overnight. Maybe, let's say a couple months. I'm not sure exactly what he said. But, maybe it's a couple months. Sure, I would be kind of hurt. I'd be kind of devastated that the price dropped that much. On the other side, I'm happy that people can still get this card and that more of them are being graded, but also that it's more affordable. The hobby being more affordable for everybody, it doesn't matter how deep you are invested in the hobby, unless you need to get out quickly. If you need that money and you rely on that money to pay the bills, then you shouldn't be buying all the cards in the first place. My situation is a little different. I can pay all my bills. I can afford my quality of life, even though it is definitely beyond our means. This house is way nicer than anything I would have thought we were going to get. But I still stand by the fact that these prices are crazy right now, and that we probably should feel guilty for how much we're spending on these cards. It does seem like madness right now. But again, if you are concerned about when you might get out or paying too much, if that is a concern of yours, I would be very, very careful these next couple of months. Because with the holidays coming, Halloween, all the Gengars are going to be going up in price probably before Halloween. That's a theory that I have. I made a video recently talking about seasonal Pokemon card collecting and or investing, and how I think how I think the seasons changing affect that, right? I think Halloween will have people buying more spooky cards. And I'm starting to see other content creators make very similar content from what I just made. So I know that I'm not the only one that thinks that. I know people agree with that point that, when we have certain holidays or certain things going on, it influences our purchasing behaviors. So yeah, if you're worried about where the market's going to go and you're worried about buying a card that's, a lot of money, then, or buying into a bunch of a set, like buying a bunch of Destined Rivals, or buying heavily into the Mega Evolution set, or, going heavy into other Scarlet and Violet sets right now, I would keep in mind that people that are very knowledgeable about the market and the world economies are throwing up a red flag. They're waving a wet red flag around, and they're telling us that, guys, that just please be careful. So this is less of a cautionary video, but more like I kind of wanted to just have an open discussion. I didn't know where to start. I didn't know where to end. I just know I watched this Warren Buffett video yesterday, and it really struck a chord with me, and made me think deeper about my purchases and things that I've been buying. And yes, I would be upset that my cards' values had gone down. We would all be somewhat upset, right? Nobody wants to feel like they're losing money. But it's just like the stock market in the respect that it's never lost unless you're selling it for a loss, right? the cards in your collection, in the long haul, you don't really have to worry about the noise of the day-to-day price action of cards, booster boxes, or even the stock market. What matters is the long term. And if you're in this hobby for the right reasons, or if you're not in it for the right reasons, I don't know, but you'll love collecting cards, you love buying, selling, I don't know, just whatever makes you happy in this hobby. If you're enjoying it, then it doesn't really matter what is going to fluctuate up and down in the short term. In the long term, most sealed product tends to trend up. Market value, it tends to trend up, even though we have had more product printed than ever before these past couple of months, this past years. We've seen more Pokemon product than the entirety of the hobby existing. There hasn't been as much product being printed until now. So while I am, somewhat bearish and skeptical and cynical, maybe even a little bit, of modern Pokemon card hype and investing, I get it. I think long term it's going to play out really well, but I'm more referring to these vintage cards. What's going to happen with them? If you like them, if you enjoy collecting them, if you enjoy the artwork, then what do you have to lose, really? You buy maybe another copy, like I just did with Skyridge Gengar. I bought 2 copies of that card. I don't think there's anything wrong with owning several copies of the same card if you really want that card. And I don't know, you get the itch. You see another one, it's a good price, and you grab it. Or you see one that's even less than the one you bought, and you grab it. I think that a market pullback or some kind of retrace or some kind of crash, it's kind of inevitable, right? All things that go up must come down at some point. Pokemon is not an anomaly. It's definitely behaving like an anomaly right now, but it's not an anomaly, and it's not unique to other markets, really. It's going to have that point of inflection where it has to come down. It's going to have the inverse behavior that it's had recently, where everything has been going up. Well, now things are starting to retrace, and they've retraced a little bit. I have seen people confirming that booster boxes are coming down in price, not as low as I've said they were going to come down, even though we don't know what's going to happen. Booster boxes might crash down to where I think they're going to go, which is around the 200, 250 price point, pretty much across the board for all boxes. I think they're going to fall along that range. When people realize how many of them were printed and people start actually listing them up, people start needing cash, things happen in people's lives, they end up needing money. There are some super hyper involved investors out there that collect sealed product, and they have diamond hands. They're never letting go. Some of you watching this might say, I have diamond hands too, Orion. I'm not selling for those prices. Very well. But there are going to be a lot of people who will sell at those prices, in my opinion. There are going to be a lot of people that just decide Pokemon's not for me anymore. Or people decide I am 2 months late on my rent. Or people decide I owe $20,000 on this credit card that has a credit limit of $30,000 and I'm about to max it out. I need to sell some of this stuff quickly. There are things that get in the way. Life tends to get in the way. And I don't care what anybody says. I know what I saw. I know I saw cheap booster boxes on eBay. And I know that I've also seen boxes that have flaws. I saw some Destined Rivals boxes that had some, the corner was crushed, or the seal didn't look perfect, or it had a ding here or there, and people were selling them in the 200s, in the lower 200s. So I know that there are deals happening out there, even if it's not very obvious and it's not in the general, listings of booster boxes. I just think we need to be cautious, and we've been too bullish. And even now, people are saying that this is just a fake out. Right now, price is coming down. It's not actually going to happen, right? People are getting a little fearful, and then the market will continue rising. Maybe it's the other way around. Maybe people want to keep believing in something that is about to start tanking and crashing, and people just don't want to believe that. And I will sit here and tell you guys, I know we're getting to be a longer video. I wanted it to be a short video, just kind of talking about the market, talking about the stock market, some correlations, the world economy. But I'm going to tell you guys right now, if the prices come down in this hobby for cards across the board, it would be a net positive. It would be a net positive. Think about it. For everybody, it would be a net positive. So, am I biased? Of course I'm biased. I'm spending a load of money on cards right now. Of course I want the prices to come down. You know, also, some might argue, but Ryan, again, aren't you going to be upset when you lose that value? No, I'm not, because I'm keeping these cards for the long haul. I still want to be able to buy cards for less money, even if that means averaging down, even if that means I have to buy more of the same card to get my price average down. I'm okay with that too. It's always somewhat alarming when you see more copies of a card hit the market and you feel like, oh, I guess mine isn't so special, or I bought this booster box and then they flooded the market and then there were more of them and now the price has gone down a little bit. It's always a little bit, turns your stomach a little bit. But, Warren Buffett said it like this: Mr. Market's giving you an opportunity. Same thing with Pokemon. If things retrace, it will seem like another opportunity, and it very well might be another great opportunity to buy into sealed product or to buy slabs or buy raw cards. It might be a good opportunity, or it might be some sort of major economic collapse that is coming that we can't see on the surface. And we think, oh, we're still in our little safe bubble of Pokemon and we're still buying things and we're still investing in things. If things all turn to shit, if it turns to shit, we're all screwed. Everybody's screwed. Now, if you're in the hobby for a really long time, like I have been, you don't really feel like you're going to get screwed per se. You're just going to see the market do what the market does. This is more geared towards people that are new to the hobby, that are buying into the idea that you can build this major wealth off of the hobby. Everybody is always trying to sell you something. Everybody is always trying to sell you a dream. And there's a lot of people that are proving that it works, right? And it works for them and it works short term. And we love instant gratification. We love making money the easy way. We love a good shortcut. It's the American way. One thing I love about Buffett is he says, don't bet against America. He believes in our system. He believes in the markets here. But he still says things are getting a little bit too speculative and there are some red flags. And I respect the guy. He's been on this planet a lot longer than I have. He's been in the market a lot longer than I have, and he's one of the most respected people in the financial world. And he's extremely sharp for his age. If you've listened to any of his interview, any of his videos recently, Warren Buffett is extremely sharp for his age. So I don't want to hear anybody in here like, dude, Warren Buffett is a dinosaur. I'm surprised people are still listening to him. I always find wisdom and great advice from people that are much older than me. Whenever I meet someone much older than me at my bar, I ask them, before, I cut the check or, they close out their tab. I always ask them, what's one piece of advice you would give someone in their early 30s or even early 20s for that matter, right? What's advice that I could pass down to some of my friends that come into the bar that are much younger than me. And I always appreciate the advice that I get. And Warren Buffett is no different. He's somebody that's highly intelligent and been in the game for a really long time. And if he thinks something is going wrong, then I'm inclined to think that maybe something could be going wrong soon too. So I'm very cautious about my stock portfolio right now. I'm considering maybe you do need to sell this and just get out for a while and just have money on the sidelines. And the same thing for Pokemon right now. One video that Nostalgianomics made recently, which was talking about, now is the time to hold cash, right? People will disagree with a lot of what he says, or even treat it as the gospel, right? Especially when it comes to Pokemon card investing. And Alex, amongst Rudy, Alex was one of the first people to he's kind of the godfather of Pokemon investing aside from Rudy. Main difference being Alex actually appreciates the hobby, whereas Rudy really doesn't. Rudy is in it just for the money. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. That's his MO. that's his prerogative, right? But one point that Nomics made that was really good was, and I don't always agree with everything, but he was talking about holding cash. And so I'm going to double back to that point on having your money on the sidelines. We don't really know what's going to happen with Pokemon. What we know is we have had a track record of a graph that has gone straight up, a chart that has gone straight up, right? We're having, like, right now it looks like booster boxes are dumping, but they're just going back to what they should be right now, right after the FOMO and the hype has been factored in. We have not even begun to see a real crash, a real drop in Pokemon. And everything in my gut is telling me that we are going to get one soon. That being said, I'm also very concerned about the stock market right now. I'm very concerned about whether I should be keeping my money in or pulling it out. But again, like Pokemon, there's no really great time, to try and figure out the market or be one step ahead. It's really just ride the wave. Don't panic. Don't be super fearful. I just think this is like my cautionary tale, and just telling people, maybe that card that you're looking at, maybe just be a little patient. See if more people list it up for sale. See if another one pops up on the market for less. I've always been one to jump into FOMO or hype when I really, really want a card that I think will continue rising in value. And to be fair, guys, I've been right about the vast majority of cards that I bought. And that's no genius move. A lot of that is luck, and a lot of that is I just liked the cards. I wanted them in my collection. There wasn't much analysis beyond that. I am a collector, and I'm a collector to a fault, almost to the point where making content is like a struggle some days, because all I want to do is look at cards and buy cards. I literally could care less about, giving people advice or telling people what to do with their money or telling people what to do with their collections. But I just like to say, hey, this is what I'm doing with my collection. This is what I'm doing with my money right now. And, double back to the correlation with the stock market and cards. I hold no attachment whatsoever to my stock holdings. No attachment. I can sell a stock and it doesn't matter, even if it's QuantumScape, my beloved QuantumScape that I hold dearly, that I've had a position in for the last 5-6 years. Even that stock, I'll day trade it if there's money in it. There's no attachment. Additionally, if the market trends down, I'm not afraid of taking a small loss and just taking all my money out. I'm not afraid of doing that. You can't really do that in Pokemon, because by the time things have moved, you're too late. And that applies in the up direction and the down direction. Pokemon is pretty liquid, but it's not as liquid and it's not as fast as people think it is, right? One market shift, it's just one market shift away from, thousands of the same card being listed on the market and no one's buying them, right? That can happen overnight. Whereas the stock market is, it's more likely in the long term to trend up. You're always going to have another chance to buy something low and sell it at a high again. Pokemon is not necessarily like that. Pokemon, you've got modern stuff that's super overprinted and super high populations, and those can flood the market. But vintage, which is why I talk about vintage all the time, vintage isn't really affected as much, right? As much as I would like to think some kind of retrace or some kind of correction would affect vintage, I don't even know if it would affect vintage because it's so finite. Unlike a stock that can be issued and more shares can be put out there, and there can be stock splits, there's only so many of a certain card. And so with the oldest, most vintage high-end chase cards, there's only so many of them. And so, while I want people to be careful, I do think buying those cards in any environment, in the long term, you're going to be happy with what you purchased. But it will be interesting to see if we do have some kind of correction. Will vintage cards suffer the same fate as all of the modern stuff? Am I wrong the entire time? Is it possible that the entire market will kind of just be treated the same? Maybe. Anyways, I just wanted to make a video today talking about, what Buffett was talking about, and just that right now there's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of fear, and the market makers love that, right? They want you to let go. They want you to be fearful. And the thing is, in the market, people get swallowed up whole. That can happen in Pokemon too. People can lose a lot of value in Pokemon too. And I don't want that for people. And I hope that this will be a video that resonates with others that kind of think that, yeah, prices are crazy right now. Like, it almost seems like I'm the crazy one for thinking that we're at a ridiculous point in this hobby right now and that something has got to give. I don't know if I worded everything as eloquently as I could have wished. Some days I make videos and I'm like, why did you even make a video? And then I have people telling me that they love it and that I should do more of them. So I guess I just keep on doing what I'm doing and putting my thoughts out there. And, this isn't like, a fact. This isn't something that I know to be true. I don't know that the market's going to crash. It's just something that I believe to be the case. I think that we are at the peak right now. And I think that everything needs to just take a breather. Modern's too expensive. Sealed is too expensive. And even my beloved vintage is too expensive right now. So do what you will with that. I love you guys. I hope you guys appreciate this haircut. Shout out to Diana for an awesome haircut yet again. My hair was getting super long and out of control. So yeah, it's my new look. Anyways, peace out, everybody. And yes, I can afford a $20,000 Pokemon card. What I will not do is spend $20 on a haircut. That's just too much money. That's too much. The price is too high. Anyways, peace out, everybody. If you're like me, let me know in the comments.